The Galactic Empire had been unstoppable. For centuries, their fleet had swept through the stars, conquering system after system with an iron fist. Planets fell to their might, civilizations subjugated, and all who opposed them were crushed beneath the weight of their advanced technology and unmatched firepower. Now, at the precipice of what they believed would be their final victory, the last coalition of resistance forces was wiped out, and the Empire's dominance seemed assured. Admiral Karthos, the Empire's unflinching commander, stood at the heart of the flagship Eclipse, watching the debris of the final battle drift across the vastness of space. The last stronghold of the resistance had fallen, their fleets scattered in ruins. It was a perfect victory, yet there was an odd, unsettling emptiness that Karthos couldn't shake. His fleet had been in battle for days, decimating any remnants of the enemy, and he could feel the weariness among his officers. The cheers of victory rang hollow in his ears. "Admiral," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was his second-in-command, Commander Rilo, who stood beside him, holding a digital report. "The enemy fleet has been obliterated. We are preparing to return to Galactic Command. But there is something strange." Karthos raised an eyebrow, already tired of hearing about petty distractions. "What is it now, Commander?" "We have won. Our future is secure." Rilo hesitated, then handed over the datapad. "It's a transmission, sir." "From Earth." Karthos frowned. "Earth? That backwater planet that the Council dismissed as irrelevant?" "Yes, sir. They've sent a message." Karthos stared at the screen, expecting a feeble plea for mercy or a final act of defiance. Instead, the words that appeared on the screen were chilling in their simplicity. "We are Earth. You are not welcome here." The message wasn't a request. It was a declaration, a warning. Karthos felt a strange chill creep down his spine. Earth had been little more than a curiosity, a forgotten corner of the galaxy that had long since been deemed inconsequential. But now, this message carried an air of finality. The sheer audacity of it caught him off guard. There was something about the tone, something about the certainty in those words, that felt like more than just empty bravado. Rilo spoke, his voice tight with disbelief. "Sir, we've confirmed the transmission. It's legitimate. It's coming from Earth itself." Karthos turned, his mind already calculating their next move. Earth was far from their path of expansion. But this was an insult. No one dared speak to the Empire like this, let alone a primitive world such as Earth. "Prepare the fleet," Karthos ordered, his voice sharp with fury. "Let's see just how dangerous a backwater planet can be." The Eclipse began its long journey toward Earth, but Karthos couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed in the galaxy. The Empire had crushed all resistance. Or so they thought. And yet, something told him that the greatest challenge the Empire had ever faced was just beginning. The vast expanse of space was quiet, too quiet, as the Eclipse cut through the dark void. Admiral Karthos stood at the command center, his eyes fixed on the view screen, the Earth system slowly coming into view. His mind churned with questions. How could a species so primitive have developed such advanced technology? A transmission was one thing, but to challenge the might of the Empire was something else entirely. "Admiral." Commander Rilo's voice broke through his thoughts. "We've reached the Earth system. Scanners show multiple unidentified ships near the planet." "Unidentified," Karthos repeated, his voice laced with disbelief. "Run a full scan. Are we sure these ships are of human origin?" The bridge crew worked quickly, tapping into the vast array of sensors that the Eclipse boasted. Seconds ticked by, each one more suffocating than the last. Karthos's gaze never left the view screen. And then, as if to answer his growing unease, the sensor technician spoke. "Sir, these ships are enormous. They're unlike anything we've seen before. I'm unable to identify their weaponry, but their hulls are reinforced in ways we've never encountered." A sudden, cold realization gripped Karthos's chest. The humans had not simply made ships. They had crafted war machines. "Shields up," he barked, his tone now sharp with urgency. "Prepare for engagement. Bring us into firing range. We'll teach them why they should never challenge the Empire." But the Eclipse and its fleet were not alone. Emerging from the shadows of the asteroid belt near Earth's orbit, several colossal dreadnoughts appeared on the sensor grid. They didn't approach like any conventional fleet. They moved with precision and intent, a formation that mirrored the most elite military strategies the Empire had ever known. The sheer size of these vessels was staggering, each one more massive than any capital ship the Empire had. They seemed almost predatory, like ancient creatures moving in sync. "Launch interceptors," Karthos commanded, his voice steady despite the tension crawling through his veins. "Engage them. Take them down before they have a chance to retaliate." The Empire's fleet surged forward, weapons charging, eager to bring down the unknown enemy. As the ships closed in on the dreadnoughts, Karthos couldn't help but notice how unnervingly calm the human vessels appeared. No panic, no frantic energy, just cold, calculating efficiency. Then, without warning, the human ships opened fire. A wave of energy blasts slammed into the first wave of Empire interceptors, obliterating them in an instant. The impact was so precise, so devastating, that the Empire's forces were stunned into momentary silence. The dreadnoughts didn't just shoot. They aimed with deadly accuracy, as if they were aware of every move the Empire fleet would make before it happened. "Enemy fire is concentrated, sir," the weapons officer shouted. "We can't match their firepower. Shields are failing on the outer hull." Karthos's eyes widened as the human ship's weapons struck again, this time at the Eclipse's defenses. He could feel the vibrations of the impact through the deck, the ship groaning under the pressure. This was no ordinary fight. The humans weren't just defending, they were hunting. "Pull back," Karthos yelled, realizing too late that his fleet had underestimated the sheer ferocity and power of Earth's warships. "Get us out of range now." But it was already too late. The Earth dreadnoughts were on them, relentless and precise, cutting through the Empire's fleet as if it were made of paper. Admiral Karthos's mind raced as his flagship, Eclipse, groaned under the barrage. The battle had escalated far beyond what he had ever anticipated. His ships, once the pride of the Empire, were now being shredded by Earth's dreadnoughts with cold, mechanical precision. Every maneuver he attempted was countered with a brutal efficiency that sent shockwaves through his command. "Shields down to 30%, sir," the tactical officer shouted over the cacophony of alarms ringing throughout the command deck. "We need to fall back or risk losing the fleet." Karthos clenched his fists, refusing to show weakness in front of his crew. "No, we hold the line. Prepare the ion cannons. I want a full salvo at the lead dreadnought. If we can take one down, the rest will scatter." The Empire's fleet, though battered, began to regroup, aligning itself for a concentrated assault on one of the Earth dreadnoughts. As the ships fired in unison, a barrage of energy bolts and missiles lit up the void. For a moment, it seemed like their coordinated attack might finally break the humans' defensive formation. But then, as if the humans had anticipated the move, the lead dreadnought, a massive vessel adorned with the insignia of Earth, maneuvered with a speed and precision that was almost impossible to believe. The dreadnought twisted and turned, absorbing the attack with its reinforced hull, then returned fire with an unrelenting storm of energy blasts that cut through the Empire's ships like they were made of paper. The flagship Eclipse shuddered violently as another blast struck its port side. The outer hull groaned as sections of it were scorched and ruptured. Sparks flew from consoles across the bridge as the officers scrambled to maintain control. "Damn it," Karthos growled, fury rising in his chest. The Eclipse was his ship, his pride, and it was being torn apart by a single human vessel. How is this possible? They should have no chance. The bridge crew was in disarray, but Karthos remained focused. "Get us closer," he barked, his voice low and dangerous. "We'll board them. If they want a fight, we'll give them one." Sir, Rilo spoke up, his voice tense. We may be able to retreat to the asteroid belt. We'll have cover there. Karthos's eyes narrowed. No retreat. No surrender. The Empire will never be defeated by a handful of primitive humans. The Eclipse surged forward, aiming directly for the human ship, intent on boarding it and bringing the fight to their doorstep. As the massive dreadnought loomed larger on the view screen, Karthos couldn't help but feel a flicker of respect for the enemy. These humans, they were fighting with a determination he hadn't seen in eons. No one had ever dared challenge the Empire like this, not even the fiercest enemies. But that respect quickly turned to hatred as he saw the Earthship's cannons charging once again. The dreadnought fired a devastating volley, sending shockwaves that rattled through the Eclipse. Karthos gritted his teeth as his ship's hull began to buckle. "Prepare to board," he roared. "We take them. Now." But just as the Eclipse closed in for the final strike, a new wave of human reinforcements appeared from behind the asteroid field. More dreadnoughts, more ships. The Earth fleet had been holding back, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Karthos froze, the realization dawning on him too late. The humans hadn't just come to fight. They had come to dominate. The reinforcements opened fire, and once again, the Empire's fleet was torn apart. The Eclipse was hit once more, its shields failing as the massive Earthship swarmed in. It was no longer a fight. It was a slaughter. The battle was over. The debris of the Empire's once proud fleet now floated in silence, scattered across the void like the remains of a broken Titan. Admiral Karthos stood at the command center of the Eclipse, his fists clenched in frustration as he watched the last remnants of his fleet retreat, broken and battered. His eyes were wild, haunted by the sheer devastation Earth's forces had wrought. "Status report," Karthos demanded, his voice strained, the usual calm authority gone. "Most of the fleet has been disabled or destroyed, sir," Rilo replied, his voice hollow. "We've lost more than half of our ships. The Eclipse is still functional, but will need extensive repairs." Karthos exhaled sharply, trying to steady himself. This defeat was unthinkable. They'd been humiliated by a species they had considered primitive. The humans had shattered their superiority, leaving them vulnerable in ways Karthos couldn't have imagined. His mind raced. He had never known fear like this. "We need reinforcements," Karthos said finally, his voice tinged with desperation. "The Council must know about this. We cannot let this go unchallenged." As the Eclipse limped back toward the Empire's core systems, Karthos ordered a full tactical analysis. He would not let the humans get away with this. The Empire's war machine could not be allowed to crumble over one setback. But even as the orders left his mouth, he couldn't shake the growing suspicion that something was terribly wrong. A few hours later, in the heart of the Empire, the Galactic High Command convened in an emergency session. The Council of Lords, an assembly of the most powerful figures in the Empire, was not pleased. Their faces, stern and unreadable, stared back at Karthos from the holographic display. "Admiral Karthos," spoke Lord Varen, "the highest ranking of the Lords, you have failed us. Your fleet has been decimated by these humans. Do you have an explanation for this disaster?" Karthos stood tall, despite the sinking feeling in his gut. "The humans are unlike anything we faced. Their ships are unlike ours in every way. Their weapons—" He paused, searching for the right words. "They anticipated every move we made. It's as if they knew us before we even acted." The council exchanged glances, murmurs rippling through the room. Lord Varen's eyes narrowed. "This is unacceptable. How could a race like humans defeat the might of the Empire?" Karthos straightened, his mind beginning to piece together what had happened. "We underestimated them, Lord. They have resources, intelligence, and a level of combat readiness that defies explanation. They are far more advanced than we first thought." There was a moment of silence before Lord Varen spoke again, his voice cold. "What do you propose we do?" Karthos exhaled sharply. "We must strike back with overwhelming force. We'll send the entirety of the Imperial fleet. We'll destroy their homeworld and force them to surrender." But as the words left his mouth, a sense of unease settled over him. It wasn't just fear, it was something deeper. A realization that they might be walking into another trap. The humans hadn't just defeated them. They had done so with a level of confidence that suggested they had planned every move, every counterattack. "Lord Varan," Karthos said, his tone softening, "there is something else. The humans have a technology we don't understand, something hidden. We've only scratched the surface. I believe they've been preparing for this conflict for years." Lord Varan regarded him with skepticism. "Are you suggesting we retreat, Admiral?" "No," Karthos said quickly. "I'm suggesting we prepare for a different kind of war. We need to adapt, learn, and counter their strategy." Lord Varan's eyes glinted with cold calculation. "Prepare for what? More humiliation? No. We will strike again. This time, there will be no mercy." Karthos clenched his fists. He had no choice but to follow the orders of the Empire. But the gnawing feeling at the back of his mind told him that the humans weren't just playing for survival. They were playing for dominance. As the call ended, Karthos stared at the holographic map of the Earth system. He knew one thing. This wasn't going to be a simple campaign. Earth was no longer a backwater planet. It was a force to be reckoned with, and the Empire's very future might hang in the balance. Weeks passed as the Empire regrouped. The Eclipse, along with the remnants of the Imperial fleet, was hastily repaired at one of the Empire's distant refueling stations. Karthos, once brimming with the confidence of a seasoned warlord, now moved like a shadow of his former self, haunted by the crushing defeat at Earth's hands. Yet he knew that the true challenge was just beginning. If the Empire was to survive, they needed to learn more about these humans, and quickly. Back at the Imperial capital, the High Council had approved a full-scale retaliation. Thousands of ships, from dreadnoughts to cruisers, were being mobilized to wipe Earth from existence. But Karthos's unease lingered. His mind constantly returned to the same question. How had Earth so easily anticipated their every move? The humans' technology, their strategy, was something far beyond what any intelligence reports had suggested. As the fleet prepared to set out once more, Karthos ordered a top-secret mission. He knew that if they were to defeat Earth, they had to understand it, truly understand what made their enemy tick. The Empire's best scientists were dispatched to Earth's atmosphere under the guise of a reconnaissance mission to gather any scraps of technology or intelligence that might explain the humans' surprising advantage. But even as Karthos planned this covert operation, the battle for Earth loomed large. The High Command had given Karthos command of the next invasion. The Imperial fleet would launch an all-out assault, hoping to overwhelm Earth's defenses with sheer numbers. Meanwhile, on Earth, the atmosphere was electric with tension. Governments and militaries around the world had mobilized in response to the Empire's continued aggression. Earth had never faced such an existential threat, but humanity was no stranger to adversity. With the help of their powerful warships, which had now grown into an entire fleet of terrifying dreadnoughts, humans began to prepare for the worst. The leaders of Earth, from generals to scientists, had one thing in common: the belief that survival was not only possible, it was inevitable. The strategy was simple: hold the line at all costs and counterattack with overwhelming force when the time was right. They had already been studying the Empire's weaknesses, learning from every skirmish, every battle. Earth's fleet was a machine built to destroy, and the humans knew they could outthink and outfight any invader. "We'll show them that the Empire may rule the stars," President Lydia Greaves said during a broadcast to the world's military commanders. "But Earth is not some colony to be crushed. We are not their slaves. We are their reckoning." Her words ignited a fire in the hearts of billions. From the wreckage of their shattered cities came a unified front, and despite the looming threat, Earth's resistance was not only fierce, it was strategic, coldly calculated. The humans had a power that the Empire could never understand. unity born of necessity. And now, Earth was ready to meet its invaders head-on. Back aboard the Eclipse, Karthos paced the command deck, his mind still wrestling with the one glaring issue that had remained unresolved. Why hadn't the humans surrendered? After all, they were facing forces that could obliterate entire star systems. Yet Earth stood firm, its resolve unwavering. "Admiral," Rylo's voice broke his thoughts. "The fleet is ready. We can depart as soon as you give the order." Karthos nodded, though his mind was far from focused. The looming conflict with Earth felt different now. Something in the pit of his stomach told him this wouldn't be as easy as it should be. Still, he couldn't back down. The Empire had made its move. Earth would either submit or face total destruction. He gave a sharp nod. "Engage. Prepare the fleet for hyperspace jump. Let's end this once and for all." As the fleet slipped into hyperspace, heading toward Earth's system, Karthos could feel the weight of the coming storm. He wasn't just battling for control of a world. He was fighting for the very soul of the Empire. But as the coordinates set, the nagging suspicion that Earth's resolve might not be so easily broken remained firmly in his mind. The war was about to escalate to an unimaginable level, and Earth had no intention of surrendering. The Eclipse and its fleet emerged from hyperspace, its massive hull dwarfing the ships around it. The Earth system lay ahead, its blue and white planet a stark contrast against the cold void of space. Karthos stared at the viewscreen, his mind sharp and focused. He knew that Earth's defense forces would be ready for them. They had prepared for this moment, and now the Empire would meet them in a battle that would decide the fate of both civilizations. "Admiral," Rylo's voice broke the silence. "Scanners indicate a full defensive perimeter around Earth. Dreadnoughts and smaller vessels are stationed in strategic orbits. They're expecting us." Karthos's eyes narrowed. "Of course they are. They've been preparing for months, maybe years, but it won't be enough." The fleet was massive, far larger than anything Earth had fielded. Thousands of ships, from Imperial dreadnoughts to cruisers, stood ready to strike. The strategy was simple: crush Earth's fleet with overwhelming force. Once the enemy ships were decimated, the invasion would be a formality. The Empire's ground forces would land on Earth, and the planet would fall in a matter of days. "Prepare for immediate engagement," Karthos ordered. "Bring us into range. Target their fleet's flagship." The Empire's ships surged forward, their massive cannons charging, ready to deliver the first blow. But just as Karthos anticipated the battle to unfold with familiar Imperial efficiency, the Earth forces did something unexpected. The Earth dreadnoughts, which had previously been stationed in orbit, moved into a formation that Karthos had never seen before. It was fluid, adaptive, as if they were dancing around the Empire's ships, anticipating each move before it was made. The sheer speed and agility of the human fleet caught Karthos off guard. The dreadnoughts weren't just firing. They were coordinating their movements with flawless precision, almost as if they could predict every strategy the Empire had planned. "Admiral," Rylo said, her voice tense, "they're outmaneuvering us. We've lost contact with the forward fleet." Karthos cursed under his breath. This wasn't just a fight for survival for Earth. It was a statement. The humans were showing that they didn't just want to survive. They wanted to obliterate the Empire's arrogance. The first salvo from the Earth fleet came just as Karthos issued his orders. The Empire ships erupted in a blinding burst of energy. The shields on the Eclipse absorbed most of the impact, but the blast still sent shockwaves through the ship, rattling the crew. "Shields at 40%, Admiral," the tactical officer shouted. "We can't withstand this kind of firepower for long." Karthos gritted his teeth. The Eclipse was the most advanced warship the Empire had ever built, yet it was struggling to even hold its ground against a single dreadnought. There was something fundamentally different about Earth's approach to war, something Karthos couldn't yet grasp. The Empire was used to overwhelming strength, to sheer numbers and power, but Earth wasn't fighting in the same way. They fought with a ruthlessness, a precision, that seemed almost personal. Reroute all power to forward shields, Karthos ordered, his voice sharp. Fire all ion cannons. Focus on their lead ship. The Eclipse fired a barrage of its most powerful weapons, but the Earth ship danced around the attack with an agility that made the Empire's finest look sluggish in comparison. And then, as if mocking the Empire's efforts, the human fleet retaliated in kind. Another barrage of energy struck the Eclipse dead on, this time breaching the ship's outer defenses. The hull groaned as a massive explosion rocked the flagship, sending sparks flying across the bridge. Admiral. Direct hit on the port side. Rilo shouted, barely audible over the chaos. We've lost all communication with our rear fleet. They're retreating. Karthos's mind raced. This wasn't supposed to happen. The humans weren't supposed to be this strong. They weren't supposed to be this skilled. For the first time in his life, Karthos felt the crushing weight of uncertainty press down on him. He had led the Empire's military for decades, and no enemy had ever fought back like this. Pull back. Now, Karthos barked. We need to reassess. We can't. Before he could finish the order, the Eclipse was struck again, this time by a wave of missiles from Earth's Dreadnoughts. The shockwave tore through the ship, sending it into a devastating spiral. The screens on the bridge flickered and died as the Eclipse began to break apart. The ship's defenses were no longer holding. Karthos' chest tightened with panic. His pride, his confidence, all of it shattered in an instant. He could hear the screams of his crew as they scrambled to abandon ship, but it was too late. The Eclipse was dying, and Earth had won. The Eclipse was no more. The once proud flagship of the Empire lay in ruins, its hull barely holding together as it drifted among the wreckage of the fleet. Karthos stood at the helm, his knuckles white from gripping the console, his eyes burning with a mix of rage and disbelief. The bridge was a disaster. Alarms screamed in the background, but the silence in Karthos's mind was deafening. He had failed. The fleet had failed. Through the smoke and haze, Karthos's mind began to clear, and the full weight of the loss began to sink in. The Empire had never been defeated like this before, not by any race, not by any force. Yet here he was, on the verge of total annihilation, as Earth's victory echoed through the void. Admiral. Rilo's voice broke through the haze, but it was devoid of its usual urgency. Her tone was flat, almost resigned. The fleet is in retreat. We've lost contact with the remaining forces. There's nothing left to command. Karthos's eyes snapped to her, a flicker of disbelief crossing his features. What do you mean, nothing left to command? He felt a surge of panic rise in his chest. Where's the rest of the fleet? Destroyed. Earth's forces wiped them out. We're alone, Admiral. We're all that's left. For a long moment, Karthos was silent. The Empire was in shambles, its once mighty military scattered and broken. And the humans, the very species they had dismissed as nothing more than a footnote in galactic history, had not only survived, they had obliterated the Empire's fleet. As the realization set in, a sense of cold clarity washed over him. The Empire was no longer an unstoppable force. Earth had shown them that power was not just about size or firepower. It was about strategy, adaptability, and determination. The humans had fought with a skill that the Empire had never fully appreciated. We're not finished yet, Karthos muttered under his breath, more to himself than anyone else. There's still time. There's always time. Turning to face Rilo, his eyes hardened. Prepare the last of our forces. We're not retreating. We're going to make a final stand. Rilo blinked in shock, but her face softened with understanding. Admiral, you're suggesting. Yes, Karthos interrupted. We need to get to the human homeworld. If we can destroy their planet, we can break their will. All we need is one shot. One shot, and we'll crush them. There was a silence, a hesitation that lingered between them. Earth's fleet was still strong, and Karthos knew that even if they managed to slip past its defenses, it would take a miracle to destroy the planet. But desperation was a powerful motivator, and Karthos knew that if the Empire was to survive, they had to act now. "We'll need to bypass Earth's outer defenses," Karthos continued, his voice steadying. "Their dreadnoughts are formidable, but we got a secret weapon, something they don't know about. Their fleet can't track us if we move through the asteroid belt. It's our only chance." Rilo studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Understood, sir. I'll prep the remaining fleet for the assault." "Good," Karthos said, his gaze darkening. "This is it. Earth won't get another chance to strike at the Empire." Meanwhile, back on Earth, President Lydia Greaves watched the fleet's retreat from her command center, her fingers clenched tightly around the armrests of her chair. The victory was theirs, but the cost had been high. Earth had lost several dreadnoughts in the battle, and the debris of the Imperial fleet still floated in the cold vacuum of space. Yet there was no time to rest. Karthos's threat was not over, and the Empire would not let such a humiliating defeat stand without retaliation. "We can't afford to be complacent," Lydia said, turning to her top advisors. "Karthos is not one to back down. He'll come back. We need to prepare for the next phase." General Mason, the head of Earth's military forces, nodded gravely. "We've already begun reinforcing our defenses. Our shipyards are working overtime to replace the ships we lost. But we need to prepare for a potential counterattack. If the Empire tries another direct assault, we'll have to hit them before they reach Earth." Lydia's mind raced, calculating their options. "We'll move all fleets to high alert. Keep them on the outer perimeter of the system. If they're planning something, we'll know about it." As she gave the orders, the weight of her responsibility pressed down on her shoulders. Earth had won a great victory, but the war was far from over. Karthos and the Empire would not be easily defeated, and the final battle was still on the horizon, one that would determine the fate of two civilizations. Back in space, Karthos' fleet moved into position, hidden among the asteroid fields, the last remnants of Imperial might assembling for a desperate strike. Karthos's eyes glinted with cold determination as the final assault began. He wasn't going to let the humans' victory be the last word. The Empire would rise again, or Earth would burn. The Eclipse had been destroyed, and the once mighty Imperial fleet was reduced to scattered remnants. But Karthos, fueled by his unrelenting pride and an unshakable belief in the Empire's superiority, refused to give in. The asteroid field surrounding Earth's system now became his sanctuary, an unexpected hiding place from the ever-watchful eyes of Earth's fleet. His battered warships moved with precision, concealed among the rocky debris, their sensors nearly blind to the naked eye, but perfectly suited for one last desperate strike. The plan was simple: move in silently, bypass Earth's outer defenses, and strike at the heart of the planet's system. If the Empire could land one blow, one critical strike, they could destroy Earth's ability to retaliate. Karthos would not accept anything less than total victory, no matter the cost. But on Earth, the mood was different. The people, exhausted from weeks of conflict, found themselves cautiously optimistic after the Empire's retreat. The military had regrouped, but the knowledge that another assault could be imminent weighed heavily on their minds. "We've beaten them once," President Lydia Greaves said to her assembled commanders, her voice resolute despite the grim circumstances. "We can beat them again. We've proven they're not invincible. Now, we prepare for their next move." General Mason stood at the head of the table, his gaze focused. Earth's defenses are stronger than ever, but Karthos is dangerous. He won't hesitate to sacrifice what's left of his fleet to land a killing blow. We need to be ready for the worst. Lydia nodded. The Empire had underestimated Earth once. They wouldn't make the same mistake again. Back in space, Karthos' fleet finally broke from its hiding place. His remaining warships, though battered and scarred, were lethal machines capable of immense destruction. The asteroid field had shielded them long enough, and now they were ready to emerge, directly in the path of Earth's final line of defense. "We've made it past their outer patrols," Rilo reported from the bridge. but they'll know we're here soon. We'll be in striking range of Earth within minutes." Karthos studied the holographic map of Earth's defenses, his mind working quickly. Earth had already mobilized its remaining dreadnoughts, positioning them in a defensive perimeter around their planet. The humans had learned quickly, but Karthos was confident that the Empire's last remaining strength would be enough to overpower them. "We engage immediately," Karthos ordered, his voice calm. But beneath it, there was a cold, steely resolve. "Target their fleet's flagship first. We cripple their leadership, and the rest will fall." As the Empire's ships surged forward, the tension in the air was palpable. Earth's defenses, though formidable, had already been tested in battle. But Karthos's final assault was designed to test the very limits of their strength. The outcome of this attack would either secure the Empire's dominance or lead to its utter destruction. "Admiral," Rylo's voice cut through the command deck again. "Earth's fleet is responding. Fast. They're deploying their dreadnoughts and interceptors. It's going to be a fight for every inch of space." Karthos's eyes narrowed. He expected no less. The humans, driven by the memory of their last victory, would not back down easily. But he would give them no choice. "We can't afford to hold back," he said with a biting edge. "Engage all firepower. Nothing less than total destruction." The first salvo came, a devastating barrage of energy that tore through the dark silence of space. The Imperial ships released their full arsenal, each blast lighting up the expanse as Earth's defenses scrambled to intercept the incoming fire. Earth's dreadnoughts, though agile, were met with overwhelming force. Massive shields flickered, sparking as explosions tore through the blackness. But the humans, undeterred, fought with the same relentless tenacity that had driven them to victory before. Earth's fleet retaliated, launching an array of missiles that swarmed the Imperial ships like a swarm of angry wasps. Karthos's vessels shook under the assault, and the Eclipse's successor, the flagship Vigilant, barely managed to evade the barrage. "We're not going to survive this if we don't break through," Karthos muttered under his breath. He knew it was now or never. They were in too deep. There was no room for retreat. As Karthos's ships neared Earth's atmosphere, the final confrontation began. The enemy fleet, despite its impressive resistance, was buckling under the pressure. The Earth dreadnoughts, though powerful, could not outlast the onslaught forever. One by one, they fell, their massive hulls cracking under the weight of the Empire's assault. But as the Empire pushed forward, Karthos's eyes widened in shock. Earth's final trump card had not been revealed yet. At the last moment, Earth's flagship, the pride of humanity, launched a devastating counterattack, sending a concentrated energy beam that tore through the heart of Karthos's lead vessel. The shockwave from the blast sent ripples through space, and Karthos's world tilted violently. His flagship, the Vigilant, trembled and groaned as it was rocked by the force of the blow. For a brief moment, everything slowed. Karthos could hear the scream of alarms, the rush of panic in the crew's voices, but none of it registered. All he could think about was the impossible. Earth was fighting back, and they had just dealt a blow that would cost the Empire dearly. "Retreat," Karthos roared, his voice full of fury, but it was too late. The battle was lost.